Hi guys, today I'm going to walk you through the two articles that you had to read, but I'm going to tell you right up front, I am not going to tell you what to think. I'm just going to kind of read them aloud and think aloud for you, but you're going to have to kind of listen and think for yourself about what to put into those graphic organizers, those 4A graphic organizers that you have to do, one for each article. So we're going to start with the first article, Romeo and Juliet is a terrible play and David Laveau can't change that, by Alyssa Rosenberg. Pretty much right from the title, you know where Alyssa is probably heading with her critique of the play, but let's see what she has to say. A new interracial production of Romeo and Juliet arrives on Broadway this September, starring Orlando Bloom and Condola Rashad. Director David Laveau decided to cast the lovers' families in alignment with their races, resulting in a much more diverse production. So why am I not cheering? Because despite the fact that its latest staging features a 36-year-old actor and a 26-year-old actress, Romeo and Juliet, a play about children, is full of terrible, deeply childish ideas about love. And as much as I want to see more interracial couples in pop culture and more diverse casts on stage and screen, I don't want them to see cast in material that is so horribly depressing. So we're going to pause right there. There's two things to point out about these opening paragraphs. One, I think it always helps to have a picture in the back of your head about who this writer is critiquing. So here's a picture of the two actors, Condola Rashad and Orlando Bloom. There's the director, David Laveau. You can see it says Romeo and Juliet in the background. But just so you see what this person is critiquing, the actors are a little bit older than the characters themselves, and it's an interracial couple. And you'll see that she's not so much critiquing that they're interracial, other than their age. Let's go back to the article. After these first two paragraphs, too, you should probably have a sense of Alyssa Rosenberg's claim, right? Just from these first two paragraphs, you should get a sense of what she is probably going to be talking about through the rest of her article. So let's see what's going on. Romeo and Juliet itself hasn't aged well. Well, we know it was written in the 1500s, so it's very old, and it's hard for something that old to age well. The story follows Juliet Capulet, who is 13 when she meets Romeo Montague at a party, falls head over heels in love with him, and marries him within a day of meeting him. Romeo's age isn't specified in the play, but the quickness with which he throws over a former flame for Juliet, that's Rosaline, we're going to come back to this childish label, doesn't suggest a particularly mature man. Maybe this works on the page when we're not forced to watch actors and actresses who are clearly in their 20s and 30s behave like early teenagers. But the effect is embarrassing and unsettling for today's theater audiences, perhaps already fretting over suspended adolescents and stunted millennials. So we're going to pause there. What did I write? Weird how we automatically assume these characters can make these decisions about love because of their context. No, they are still babies. Yeah, they were saying that Romeo's age isn't specified, but he just like ditches Rosaline and goes to Juliet. And we never really talk about how immature that decision is, but Alyssa Rosenberg is identifying that, yes, there's our first indication that Romeo is not that mature, and we know that from the get-go. And it doesn't matter whether it takes place in 1500 or 2017. Romeo and Juliet are babies, and they shouldn't make decisions like this that require a lot more maturity and wisdom. I also highlighted this sentence about today's theater audiences, perhaps already fretting over suspended adolescents and stunted millennials. I circled fretting and suspended and stunted because I want you to think about these three words, which words were used, and what tone that created, and what's the significance of using these words fret and suspend and stunt. How does that help Alyssa Rosenberg make her claim? Let's move on. Update the play to match the aged-up actors. Whoops. In the two main roles, and the plot still doesn't make a lot of sense. Why are the families fighting? What was the inciting incident? The absence of a reason does not mean that adaptations can fill in space that Shakespeare left behind, making the warring parties Puerto Rican and Polish American, for instance, or Israeli and Palestinian. But even then, having the two lovers kill themselves through a series of misunderstandings doesn't translate well in a setting that takes any sort of modern communications for granted. And it's hard to believe the couple, no matter how lovelorn, would lack the patience to wait 24 hours to get hitched. Not to mention the savvy to check up on a bad report from Verona. But beyond that, the vision of Romeo and Juliet's deaths uniting their families is an adolescent fantasy of death solving all problems. A won't they miss me when I'm gone pout. There's a reason that in the best modern riff on Romeo and Juliet, West Side Story, Maria lives after Tony's death to shame the Sharks and the Jets, her survival a seal on the truce between them. Dying is easy. Living to survive the consequences of your actions and to do the actual work of reconciliation is the hard part. An interracial Romeo and Juliet is nice, but black actors and actresses deserve richer roles than Romeo and Juliet. All right, so let's go back up here. I pointed out that Shakespeare never really gave us a reason why the families were fighting, but that doesn't mean that directors can just kind of fill in the blanks for whatever they want. And they can't do it successfully just by making these people from different warring factions, whether it's race or country or belief or whatever. I also, you'll see throughout, I have these things childish, because her title about Romeo and Juliet is a terrible play, she opens up with this claim about it being childish, and I just kind of tracked where she supports her claim of it being childish. So think, why does Alyssa Rosenberg hate this play so much? And is it about race? What is she saying about race? What is she saying about the modern version? And what is she saying about the original version? Because she's kind of overlapping those three layers in her critique of it. Okay, so as you think about that shorter article, think about those questions.